Okay, let's get started. Incision time, 9:45.
A voice woke me abruptly. I felt groggy, my eyes still closed from the tape over my eyelids. I tried to call for help, but I quickly realized that I couldn't form any words, and I couldn't move a single muscle either. Was I paralyzed? Had I had an accident? My mind was too confused, and I couldn't remember any information at all.
Prepare the machine, part 108. We don't have much time to set all this up,
Said another voice. I was startled by a sharp pain at the base of my neck and felt warm liquid running down. I was dying to scream to express my pain, but I couldn't think of anything else except the digging sound echoing in my skull.
Press here, it's bleeding, can't you see?
Said the first voice.
It's not working.
Replied the second voice after a moment.
Okay, we'll do it another way. So what's so funny?
I've already removed the strips of skin. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air, making me nauseous. Luckily, my stomach was already completely empty. I knew I hadn't eaten in a long time, and then I remembered. An operation. They were operating on me, but I hadn't fallen asleep properly. Then I couldn't move. The surgeon kept burning my bloody flesh. And as my pain intensified, I struggled to gather my memories. Everyone I could remember. It was an illness, some kind of cancer growing inside my belly. But if that was the case, what were they doing to my head?
So how are they doing?
One of them asked.
His blood pressure and heart rate are high, but there's no other issue. Don't worry.
I could hear and feel everything they did, but I couldn't communicate.
Thank you.
They started drilling into my skull. My body moved as the drill went through my bones. The vibrations didn't hurt, but the cracking sounds, I will never forget those.
Shit, did you go too far?
No, it's fine, don't worry.
After cutting through the bone, the pain gradually faded. Since the brain doesn't actually have any sensory receptors, there was nothing I could do except listen to the sticky movements they made through my brain.
Is the device charged?
Asked the surgeon.
Charged and ready, Doctor.
I suddenly felt immense pressure as something was inserted inside my skull. Desperate and scared, I tried to recall my last moments. Before surgery, I returned to the hospital for a pancreatic tumor. Although I wasn't an anatomy expert, I knew it wasn't close to my brain.
Place the electrodes all around his entry point and set them to 650 milliamps.
An extremely high-pitched sound was heard. I felt a violent jolt, and then everything went black. When I finally regained consciousness, I was lying on a hospital bed, and a smiling woman was standing in front of me. If I remember correctly, she was one of the pre-op nurses, but I couldn't remember her name. Everything, sir.
Everything went well, Mr. Jones. We removed everything.
She said excitedly. What? I replied.
Everything is fine. The medication may cause some disorientation, but you'll feel normal in about an hour.
A doctor I hadn't seen before entered with a file and a syringe containing a thick, clear liquid.
Hello, Mr. Jones. I'm Ellie. I'm here to check on you and give you a quick injection.
I looked at my abdomen, which was throbbing, and in that spot I had a big bandage.
Does it hurt?
She asked.
Yes, a little. We'll increase your pain medication, but first I'll give you the final part of your treatment. Careful, it stings a little.
She said, pointing at the syringe.
Even though most of the tumor has been removed, we still need to eliminate the cancer cells if we don't want them to multiply.
As she prepared to inject me, my mind cleared and memories of my surgery rushed back. And I got up violently, ripping out the intravenous that was attached to my arm. You drilled into my head, and I was screaming.
What are you talking about?
Ellie, visibly upset, said, I woke up during surgery and heard everything the surgeon said. And I know they put something inside my head. She nodded.
Mr. Jones, it's especially normal to have lucid dream experiences when you're under anesthesia. Some people even report floating above the room and watching their own operations. Others have strange nightmares. It's understandable you're confusing dreams with reality.
No, it wasn't a dream. I even felt it. I checked by touching the back of my head. There was no scar, my hair was still there, and I couldn't find any stitches.
As I said, everything is normal.
Her explanations calmed me down. She put my intravenous back in and finished the injection. It really burned. As the liquid entered my veins and spread along my arms and neck, I felt dizzy.
It's over.
Ellie said, smiling. You should rest now. You will be kept under observation for a few days, and starting tomorrow, you will be able to have visitors. Everything had seemed too real to me, and yet my cancer, which was supposedly incurable, had been completely eradicated. This was despite being told I had less than 6 months to live before surgery. Looking back, everything leading to the surgery was odd, especially the call from Mr. Burke, a representative from a new pharmaceutical company called Artifex. He was working on a new treatment for terminal cancer. He said I met the criteria for the treatment, which was free since it wasn't Food and Drug Administration approved yet. We arranged a quick appointment during which he explained the procedures to me, which would combine surgery and a new chemotherapy treatment. At that point, I only had two choices: die slowly and painfully from cancer, or die quickly in an operating room. Since I was in my final moments, I chose the second option, and that's how I ended up miraculously cured, despite the terrible prognosis. My week of observation at the hospital went by extremely quickly. They gave me pain medication to help me get through the recovery. However, I couldn't forget what happened during the operation. Curious, I read all the papers from the pharmaceutical company, and I was surprised to find that in the 50 pages of the file, the name Artifex and the names of the doctors were not mentioned anywhere. I tried to call the number he had given me, but it was not assigned. Disturbed and haunted by nightmares, I couldn't do anything more than rest and hope that he would call me back for a follow-up. I needed answers. The days went by. After a month recovering, mostly watching my favorite television shows, I was finally ready to return to work. The first thing I had to do was a meeting with my boss, Daniel Harrison. He had always been very kind to me and had allowed me to take as much time as I needed for my recovery. Although my job didn't pay well, I was happy to be there. "Benjamin, it's good to see you again," he literally shouted as I walked into the office. He then hugged me. After that, he became professional again and shook my hand while starting to talk about the future of the company. I sat at his desk in front of him and I started to hear a strange sound, almost metallic. But I couldn't find the source of it. It was just vague, barely audible. At first I tried to ignore it, but Harrison immediately noticed that something was wrong. "Hey, are you okay? You look pale," he said. Yes, I'm fine." "Do you hear that?" I replied as the noise grew louder. "Hear what?" "No, nothing, forget it. I just have a headache," I said, trying to downplay my growing anxiety. He looked at me strangely in silence. Then he sighed. "Hey, listen, Benjamin. I know healing from that isn't easy. It's a burden, both mentally and physically. To be honest, I also found myself in a similar situation several years ago. It hurt my self-esteem. I felt like I wasn't strong enough to survive without someone's help. Man, I'm really sorry to hear that." I said I didn't know, as the sound became unbearable. "It's not a big deal, I rarely mention it. It was almost 15 years ago." He paused, his smile fading into concern. I have to admit, it was really weird now that I think about it. I was told I was terminally ill and wouldn't survive another year. And then, suddenly, a man came to my door and offered me a miracle treatment. His story was way too similar to mine for me not to get paranoid. I can't even remember the name of the company. Everything that happened after the operation became vague and distant. Ugh, what was their name again? I felt like he was talking to himself and then chuckled. I don't remember anything else, but I sense it was just beginning. By Artifex. Yes, that's exactly it, he exclaimed. The metallic noise in my head made it hard to hear him. How do you know that? Because they were the ones who helped me, but it's strange. Because they told me they were new to the market? Indeed, that's strange, he replied softly. I left the office pretending to have a headache. Harrison said I could take as much time as I needed, and the sound stopped just after I left the office. I sighed with relief, and I hurried home to read the documents from Artifex again. After unsuccessful research, I searched the internet and checked all my emails, even spam. But nothing. If they had already cured Mr. Harrison 15 years ago, that meant their treatment couldn't be at an experimental stage. And I wanted to know what was going on. The sound that was piercing my eardrums from inside my head, me waking up during the operation, and the fact that no one had ever heard of Artifex? It was too much for me. I had decided that in the morning I would go back to the hospital and find one of the doctors who had worked on my case. But for now, I was exhausted and needed rest. That night, I didn't sleep a wink, and I couldn't enjoy the fact that I no longer had cancer. Around midnight, my phone rang. One of my former colleagues, whom I hadn't spoken to since my treatment, was on the other end of the line. "Benjamin," he said somberly. "Alex, I didn't expect your call. Why so late?" "Is everything okay?" "Is it Allison? He is dead, but how did he die?" "Apparently he had a sudden brain hemorrhage just a few hours after I left his office." I was shocked. The day broke, and without having slept, I went to the hospital. I asked the receptionist to speak to one of the Artifex representatives. She told me she had never heard that word. When I asked to see one of the doctors, I realized that I couldn't remember their last name. So, I asked if one of the surgeons was named Ellie. After searching on her computer, she shook her head no. Disheartened, I left without any of my questions answered. I continued my unsuccessful search for several weeks, but my work soon started to take up most of my time. Things had become grim since Harrison's death. The new management took his place, and I quickly had to move on. After 6 months, things started to get back to normal. I recovered from my illness, and with a few extra pounds I gained during my recovery, I decided to take control of my life again. I went back to the gym, and I spent a lot of my time on the treadmill. I had just reached my first kilometer, which is something incredible for someone like me. When the horrible sound came back, it almost made me fall off the treadmill. I looked around, and I noticed a man of about 40 who had just started running next to me. Unlike me, he looked to be in great physical shape. He was wearing an oversized sports t-shirt. I could see a huge scar on the side of his chest. He had tried to cover it up with a tree tattoo, and next to it, it said Arbovitae. He noticed the expression of pain on my face. "Are you okay, man?" he asked as he moved toward me. The sound intensified as he got closer, forcing me to hold my ears in agony. As quickly as it started, the sound stopped and the man in front of me collapsed to the ground, convulsing before he stopped moving completely. As you can guess, he had suffered a brain hemorrhage. At least, that's what I was able to gather from the gym staff. This man had just died like Harrison, that horrible sound preceding their sudden death. After the terrible event that happened at the gym, I visited 3 different doctors, begging them to check if everything was okay with my brain. Scans, MRIs, whatever tests they were willing to do. I hadn't told them about the treatment for my cancer, and anyway, there was no record of my hospitalization. The first doctor recommended that I see a psychologist. The second didn't understand anything, and finally, the third agreed to give me a scan to check that there was nothing abnormal.
Well, Mr. Jones, it's a good thing we decided to do a scan instead of in magnetic resonance imaging, because in magnetic resonance imaging would have turned your brain to mush. You should have told me that you had an implant, because the fragment made the scan unreadable.
Excuse me? And I say confused, but not really surprised to have something in my head that shouldn't be there.
I'm sorry. A fragment is what you see when you put something metallic in a scanner. But that's nothing compared to what would have happened if they had put you in the magnetic resonance imaging. You would have, how should I put it, sort of exploded?
No, I mean, which implant? Did I interrupt him? The doctor showed me part of my scan. A large fragment took up much of the image, but a diamond-shaped metal object was in the center.
Really? Have you had brain surgery before? I can't figure out what it is, but it's very clear that it's not psychological in nature.
The doctor showed me what was in my head. I had no idea.
Well, have you ever been in a car accident or any other kind of accident? It's possible that some debris traveled through your blood vessels from the point of injury.
I had stage 3 pancreatic cancer. They operated on me and gave me an experimental treatment.
And what exactly did they give you?
He asked, more curious than worried. It was just 1 injection after the operation.
Listen, Mr. Jones. I'm not an oncologist, but from what I know, there is no injection to cure cancer, and even less so with just 1 injection. Normally, you should have been prescribed a month of chemotherapy spread out over several sessions. I don't know what they gave you, but I can assure you it wasn't for cancer.
He started looking at my head, and to my great surprise, he noticed a scar that I hadn't noticed myself, a tiny scar.
You see, you have a scar, but it's incredibly well hidden. I've never seen anything like it when it comes to brain surgery.
I tried to explain to him everything I went through during the operation, but it didn't help. He told me he was going to look at the different pharmaceutical tests to see if he could find a rational explanation for all this, but he didn't really seem convinced. One thing he was sure of was that he wouldn't be able to remove this implant. According to him, the implant was placed in too delicate a part. So, here I am, trying to live my life as peacefully as possible while waiting for answers. From time to time, the sound comes back, and when that happens, all I can do is run in the opposite direction from the person who was in front of me. I don't want to let anyone else die because of me, no matter what they have done to me. I'm not the only one. There are others like me with the same implant, and I think the only thing left for me to do is to find out what awaits me. So, in the meantime, I want to warn you, if a company called Artifex contacts you, no matter what you have, refuse their miracle treatment.